Conversation is about faith and community engagement. And my guest is Sarah Mae Stern. She worked in media for Newsweek and as a business director of Commentary, a monthly American magazine on religion, Judaism, and politics, as well as social and cultural issue. Well, Sarah serves as the chairman of the Hudson Institute Board of Trustees. She's also a trustee of the Washington Institute for Near East Policy and a board member of Winning for Women, a member of the Advisory Council of the Women's Democracy Network, and she's on the board of Maine Idea, a residential summer camp for disadvantaged girls in Maine, and she is the past president of the Edgemont Union Free School District in Scarsdale, New York. So Sarah, thank you for joining us today, and I'd love to start for you to share more about your really unique involvement in your community of Scarsdale, New York.
Sylvie, I'm delighted to be here with you. I'm a big fan, as you know, of the Policy Circle, so I'm just thrilled to be with you all today. So I moved to Edgemont when my children were very little. In fact, not all of them were born. And I didn't really have the idea to get involved in anything very big. I was trying to make sure my kids slept through the night. But the first thing I did was get involved in local civic associations, planning our local Halloween parade, that sort of thing. And then that grew into being involved with zoning and planning and understanding what was going on at a town-wide level. And actually, I live in the town of Greenburgh, not Scarsdale, although I have a Scarsdale mailing address. But as my kids got older, I started to get involved in the school system, as many of us do, as grade mother or book fair chair, that sort of thing. However, I quickly learned that the really interesting and compelling parts of a school district happened at the district level, not at the individual kid level. So I started attending school board meetings, which I would encourage everybody to do. They can be raucous, they can be fun, they can be difficult, but they help you understand really what's going on at schools so that you're not just focused on your own child, you're focused on what's creating the best education for the most people, which ultimately helps your child. Attending school board meetings led me to become involved and then chair our school board nominating committee, which is an organization that searches for good school board members, encourages them to run, and then interviews them behind closed doors and really susses out who would be good for the district. Supposed to keep all politics out and figure out who's smart, who would put the district before their children. And after doing that, I ended up running for the school board, served on the school board, and was president of the school board for several years. It was one of the most fun things I've ever done. It gets you deep into your community, both at an individual level and at a policy level. It also connected me to school districts beyond my local school district of Edgemont. We worked with the regents, we worked with the governor. I wrote op-eds about things that I thought were important for the state to understand as they made legislation about schools. So starting very little as a grade mom, it quickly blossomed into something much larger.
And how does your faith kind of drives your local engagement in that?
Well, Sylvie, interestingly, tonight at sundown is the most important day for my religion, Judaism. It's Yom Kippur, and it's the day that it's called, Yom Kippur means Day of Atonement. It's the day when we Jews look within us to figure out what we have done right and wrong. Last week was the Jewish New Year. In between Jewish New Year and Yom Kippur, we delve deep into ourselves to think about this. And we fast tomorrow. And as we are told in our liturgy, the day of Yom Kippur, we can have a conversation in our hearts with God and atone for anything we have done wrong to God. But for individuals, the last 10 days are what matters. And you have to atone to the individual. You have to go to the person and make things right. You can't just pray. And that to me is very much the essence of what Judaism is all about. It's about interaction with other people. The Hillel was a really great rabbi. He lived around the same time as Jesus. And he very famously was asked, can you sum up the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, while standing on one foot? No one expected him to be able to do that. But he did, saying, what is hateful to you, don't do unto others. The rest is commentary. And that's sort of what Judaism is all about. Also in our 5 books is the golden rule, love your neighbor as yourself. And I'll tell you one other sort of famous Jewish philosopher. He was a physician named Maimonides. Medieval, lived in Spain and Morocco, and for most of his life in Egypt, where he was a court physician. One of the things he did was expound on 8 levels of charity. The very top level, the best one, the one we should all aspire to, was to provide a means for a person to become self-sufficient, to rid himself on the need for charity. I think in America today, we talk about give a man a fish, feed him for a day, give him a fishing rod, feed him for a lifetime. I think education is a fishing rod. So my involvement in education partly stems from a desire to give people fishing rods to help them step up. And I think the policy circle is all about that. You're giving women fishing rods. You're helping them understand policy so they can go out and not just vote. They can create all sorts of things with your fishing rods.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really education, right, is the basis for absolutely everything, for advancement, for innovation, for finding solutions to our greatest problems. So that's thank you for sharing that. And I know that you're also involved in organizations that have an impact nationally, globally, in foreign affairs. So how does that connect, right? You have your focus in locally on education, and then share a little bit what really pulled your heart to also be involved in impacting global foreign policy.
My grandfather and his brother, along with their father, who lived in Nashville, Tennessee, rescued over 200 Jews from Germany when Hitler was rising to power and the Nazis were perpetuating their evils. They figured out how to get them out of Nazi Germany. When they came to Nashville, they found them jobs so they could land on their feet. They got them fishing rods. Very tragically, they were not able to get my great-great-grandfather, Abraham May, out. He was too old, couldn't bribe the Nazis. So he was murdered in the death camp at Auschwitz. But my grandfather and his family's legacy is something that's really meaningful to me. And they are role models for thinking about the world, that when the rest of the world was sticking their head in the sand and not understanding exactly what was going on in Germany, not only did they understand and learn more about it, they figured out a way to help people. And if the policy wasn't going their way, you could still help individuals. You could also help shape policy. And it's something I think about almost every day, because they created a legacy that I think all their descendants try to live up to. So that's something deeply personal, deeply Jewish, because there were 6 million Jews murdered. And I wonder if there had been some of the organizations that exist today, like the think tank I work for, or chair, Hudson Institute, maybe something different would have occurred and the world would be an entirely different place.
It's that's what an inspiring story, and it's true that we have to kind of raise our gaze and think bigger and really help promote what is happening in the world that a lot of times even today is not even covered in the media. There's atrocities that are happening everywhere and we don't hear about it. So it's a great reminder of thinking about our roots and the hardship that our ancestors went through to actually have an impact in the world. So if we could go back to maybe in conclusion a little bit of what you see as the role of faith, and love to hear your thoughts about the role of faith in places of worship in building thriving communities. Since this is the theme of our summit, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
I think where there are strong religious communities, there are strong communities in general, that they have a multiplier effect beyond what is happening within their walls. They create strong families, they create values, and they provide a place of welcome, generally when there are problems or issues, that whether it's a soup kitchen or here in New York, when 9/11 happened, the synagogue was certainly a place that people came to try to make sense of what was going on. And they're also a place that hands down values. And I think that that's all really, really important. I do have a caveat, though, and I don't know if you want me to go into this, but I worry that sometimes our leaders who are speaking up from the altar and given their sermons delve a little bit into my world of policy and politics. And just in the last month, I have heard of sermons on the Second Amendment, the global warming, the Dobbs decision, both sides. It was good, it was bad. We have to preserve a woman's right to choose, or abortion is murder and we have to make sure it stops. I don't really feel that that's the role of our faith leaders. I want them to inspire me with their values. I don't want them to creep into things they are less versed in.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's where being involved actually in your church, in your place of worship, in your synagogue can perhaps help influence that, right? And keep the focus on, I love the term to use about being a welcoming place for comfort and for values and for loving our neighbors. And that should be kind of the driving principle of those places. And I think that's a great reminder. So in conclusion, Sarah, give us, what is your lesson learned or perhaps your driving principle when you engage locally? I'd love to leave us with your lesson learned or your one thought that you'd like people to keep in mind, that you keep in mind when engaging.
That if you think something's wrong, go fix it, or at least get involved. It's easy to get involved. Just about anything. All you have to do is raise your hand and you'll get called on. And pretty soon you may find yourself leading the organization or whatever. It's easy to complain, but nothing gets fixed. Raising your hand, volunteering, getting involved, and understanding the issues can solve problems.
That's a good one. I love the understanding the issues, because this is kind of what I'm all about with the policy circle, is getting people to understand the issues, and then so you can find the solutions and to fix things. Love that. If you see something broken, raise your hand to help fix it. So thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Sylvie. Bye-bye.